So this week I'm joined by Mr. Rabbit and some spring flowers. Come and join me if you want to learn how to make an arrangement ready for Easter. So this month it's me and Bunny. So welcome back. Finally got round to doing some Easter arrangements, and this time I'm using one of these heavy based square containers. It's one of the ones I picked up from a charity shop. I've got a little bit of leakage in there, but you might be able to see inside are two floral frogs, and they've been stuck to the bottom of my container, and that's going to prevent my floral foam from moving back and forth. And this time I'm using the Agra Wool. So this is the one that's made of the basalt rock. It's much more environmentally friendly. It's compostable, it can be reused to grow seeds in the garden. The only problem with this one is it's very difficult to get materials in from the side. So wish me luck, it might turn into a bit of a disaster. But I'm going with almost an egg-shaped floral design, and I'm going to use this fabulous pussy willow. Now you've seen this used many times. What I've done with this, I've just used again the warmth of my hand to bend it into a shape so that I can get this really large sweeping movement on the side. Now I can see that the camera's not quite picking up the height, so we'll move it in just a second. But we'll get those first two pieces in to start with. I'm not going to cut the base because the stems are dried. I've had them for a few weeks and I'm reusing them in several different designs. But the one disadvantage of the Agra Wool is that it's very hard to get flowers in from the side. It's fine placing them in at the top, but it's really difficult getting anything in from the side. So this is one of the disadvantages of using this type of floral foam. But it is of course environmentally friendly, so it's far better for the environment. Now I'm going to use two pieces of the pussy willow on either side, and I'm almost using the side of the container as support for those big thick stems. And I've got two to go in on either side. And what I'm going to do in just a second is join them together in the middle so that we have, now this is the problem I have, inserting it in, see it's not the best for inserting materials in from the side. But what I am going to do is link those together at the top. I'm just going to use a small piece of raffia to tie the two sections together in the middle, and that's going to give me that oval shape that I was trying to achieve. And we'll cut off the stray bits, and that's now given it a bit of security and some strength. It's not as floppy now in the floral foam, but I suppose with the new types of biodegradable foam that are coming through, it's just a case of practicing with them and finding what type of designs suit it better. And I've worked out that this one isn't great when you're trying to arrange pieces coming from the side. So what we've done here is, for a bit of texture, contrast in shape and colour, I've incorporated a few more coloured branches. Something that you can pick up quite easily when you're out for a walk. You might be gardening at the moment and cutting back some shrubs, but we want to get a nice tall arrangement and create some height. And my base is quite wide, so I've gone roughly twice the width of my container, so proportionally it looks in keeping with the container. Now I've also got some steel grass. Now we haven't used steel grass before. It's very much like bear grass if you've used that in arranging at all. It's a nice lush green. It's much lighter in form than the heavy sticks, and it's also going to give me the green colouring similar to that of my little rabbit that we looked at in the beginning. And I'm going to do the same, just loop it over so we have that circular or that oval shape starting to take shape. Now I might regret choosing to use the Agra Wool because my flowers for this design are all quite soft stemmed. So I have some very pretty white ranunculus and some anemones. And it's almost a bit of an experiment, I suppose, this design, to see whether or not they're going to insert into that Agra Wool foam. So who knows, this might be a bit of a disaster. I'm going to start on one side, and what I'm planning on doing is to bring one type of flower down on one side and a different type of flower down on the opposite side. Very much like a parallel arrangement that we've looked at in the past, and I can link that in the cards here if you want to go back and investigate. Gorgeous, isn't that lovely? It's a white ranunculus, going to give me a lovely colour connection with the pussy willow. I have to be quite patient and insert them very gently into the floral foam, or in this case the Agra Wool. And what I'm going to do is start with the taller of the anemones, ranunculus, taller of the ranunculus up high, and I'll work my way down to the bottom using the more open heads as we get down towards the base. Okay, let's try and get that one into there. Now, because the stems are quite soft and the Agra Wool is quite firm, I've just made a small little hole in the foam so that there's already a section for me to insert the stem in, and then I'm not worried about damaging any of the very soft stemmed ranunculus. So it's just a bit of stem off a woody plant, and that's given me the hole there, and I can insert that in quite nicely. Now when new mechanics come onto the market, it's always important for me to practice with them and for me to see how they work and how they hold up in floral designs. It's no good me making an arrangement like this, whether it's for a wedding or it might be going out as a gift to somebody, and then the flowers don't survive in the Agra Wool as long as we would like them to be. So what you can see, I've been concentrating so much on placing the ranunculus in, I've forgotten to turn it around for you to see. But I've started with a smaller flower at the top, and I've worked rhythmically down towards the bottom with the flowers getting larger as we get towards the base of the arrangement, and that will make your eye flow downwards. What I'm then going to do is to bring some anemones onto the opposite side, but in a very similar pattern. So we're going to start with the smallest of the anemone, and I've got a really pretty bud. And when this opens, it's got a black centre to it, so it's going to work really well linking the black stems of the willow, the pussy willow. But it is, I think perhaps my lesson is today that it's only best used on strong stemmed flowers. But you know, we've got to have a go, haven't we? So I've made a hole in that, that's really going to help. I'm looking now for the next size anemone. So this one is slightly larger than the bud that I started with. And the anemones and the ranunculus have a bit of personality of their own. There's some movement in the stem. It works quite well resting against that framework that I've created there on the one side. Now you probably noticed that when I showed you my little rabbit, so this is my handsome little rabbit, he's got yellow and green colourings as well as the white jacket. So I'm aiming to replicate those colours in my floral design. So we're going to have a little bit of yellow in just a second. Got to keep using my stem to poke a hole in the bottom. So it's quite a therapeutic style of arranging because I've got to go slow, I can't rush. And the anemones are so pretty. I think they deserve, along with the ranunculus, to be proud, loud and proud in the arrangement. I don't want to hide them by adding lots and lots of foliage in there. So this one is going to be quite a simple arrangement. So a little anemone sneaked in there, and then we're going to bring one anemone to the front, making that hole first of all to get that stem into. And you know, it's worked quite well. And we've got that lovely swooping colour from one side to the other, different textures and colours on either side, but the black centre there of the anemone gives me a great link between the colour on the very dark colour of the willow. Right, now I've made myself a little nest because at Easter time we think of new life and spring, a new generation, rejuvenation, that type of thing. So I've made myself a little nest, and that's going to sit quite comfortably at the back there. I didn't want to make it too large. I think we're going to squash it down a little bit just to get it to sit nicely in the middle. And I've made this with some ivy twine, a bit of moss, and I've just bound it round and round together to get that circular section. Hopefully I'm going to squeeze it in between my flowers. Now I could have put that in initially and worked around it, but because I knew the stems of the flowers were going to be quite soft, I decided to leave it out until my flowers were in position, and hopefully that sat quite comfortably there. Then my little, I nearly called him bear, my little rabbit, I've attached onto the bottom the plastic frog, so I've hot glued it onto the bottom. My rabbit wasn't too happy about me gluing his feet onto the bottom, and he can sit in the middle of the nest. And I know a rabbit doesn't live in a nest, but he's going to protect my eggs. So I've got some pretty little eggs, whoop, in the same colour as the rabbit, and they are just going to sit for a moment at the base. I've got a few to hang on the top as well, but for a minute they're just going to sit around the bottom there, give me that Easter springtime look. So what do we think so far? Now this is what we call negative space. It's an area where there is no flower material in it. The side sections is positive space where we fill the area, but by leaving this section empty, it means that my little rabbit is quite clearly seen within the flower arrangement. It's quite a strong structure, so if you wanted to hang anything on the top, you're quite welcome to do that. I'm going to add some eggs in a moment. But for a minute we want to add some foliage to the front, and this time I've picked a florist foliage called pistache, but you can use anything that you can get hold of. Pittosporum, conifer, rosemary would be lovely at this time of the year. And I'm just going to fill in on the bottom. I do have a pretty little daisy to add in as well, but we're going to cover the mechanics there at the front before we start. So not a huge amount of foliage there, but I've made sure that all of my floral foam is covered there at the bottom. And of course, if we look at the back, that nest is covering all my mechanics at the back, so I don't have to worry about adding anything in there. Now to bring in a yellow colour in, I have forsythia, and you might have this growing in the garden. You can certainly order it from a florist shop, but this is going to bring in that lovely yellow colour that I want to have. And hopefully, because it's a stronger stem, it's going to work much better in the Agra Wool than those little springtime anemones and ranunculus. There we are. So I'm going to try and get some of the yellow colouring up towards the top. Beautiful flower. It's quite an unusual plant because the flower, the yellow star-shaped flower, comes on it before the leaf, and then when the yellow flower dies back, you get the green leaf comes on the plant. And it's a very popular plant in the spring here in the UK. Just position that in the area that I went. So I'm trying to keep that centre section free. Mr. Rabbit is moving about a bit too much, but I'm aiming to keep that centre section fairly free. I don't mind a few branches sweeping from one side to the other. I'm going to replicate it on the opposite side, but not make it perfectly symmetrical, because of course in nature you wouldn't have plant material that's perfect on both sides, but it does bring that yellow colour in to the other corner. Got a couple of smaller sections that I can add in towards the front, and then that yellow colouring is sweeping really beautifully from one side to the other. I think that's lovely. Lovely so far. My final flower is an ordinary supermarket chrysanthemum. This was in part of a mix bench, and I felt it was quite spring-like, almost like a little daisy you would have growing in the garden. It's a strong enough stem to insert into that Agra wool without it snapping or damaging, and it's going to bring a really soft springtime feel to the arrangement. So a little bit towards the front. So hopefully you can see how that's come from one side to the other, and it's making your eye travel all the way around the arrangement. This is a flat design, so we're not too worried about the weight of the flower arrangement. I don't have to add any materials at the back to create actual weight. But it is nice to have the flowers moving rhythmically from one side to the other. Just get that a bit lower down. And we'll go for one a bit taller. And I think we might be almost done with this arrangement. I'm just going to add, in this sort of area here, I'm going to add one more of the white ranunculus, because the anemone is down quite low, but I don't have a ranunculus down at the bottom. So we'll add this lovely big white, it's almost like marshmallow, like you want to dive in and swim around in it. So what do we think of that one so far? Now don't forget, I say this in every video, if you're enjoying the tutorials, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video, and tell your friends, let them know where they can come to see some fabulous videos. I try to do something different for you to see each week, and under normal circumstances I upload on a Tuesday and a Sunday. This week we've been a little manic with wedding flowers, and of course it's Mother's Day as well, so it's been a bit frantic this week, so we're a bit later uploading than normal. But I'm sure you appreciate this fabulous design, and maybe you can try that at home. Now I'm just going to tuck in a little bit of the moss. I think it's quite appropriate at this time of the year to use moss in your floral designs. And happy Easter, I hope you like that one. This is my first Easter design, hopefully there'll be a few more to follow along soon, but I hope you've enjoyed that one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.